Attention! We, the members of the Nation of Islam, followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, do not believe in nor participate in or support any acts of violence or the killing of innocent men, women, or children, regardless of their race or gender. We do not believe in nor participate in or support rape or torture of anyone, regardless of their race or gender. We are a civilized and righteous people who practice peace and who are against violence. We only fight in self-defense.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the most merciful Savior, I can never give enough thanks and praise to Almighty God Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all praises are due forever. And I thank Allah for coming to us and raising up from amongst us a divine leader, teacher, and guide in the person of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. For this, we can never thank Allah enough. And to Allah do I submit. Today, I would like to talk about the unification of the nation of Islam here in the wilderness of North America. Let's start with why. Why is a question that you ask when you're seeking understanding. We have the knowledge. The knowledge is the unification of the nation of Islam. That's the subject of the discussion. But why? Why is it necessary for this subject of discussion? We're asking understanding. Well, as many of you can bear witness to, the nation of Islam, as we knew it, under the direction of Allah's last and greatest messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, is no longer as we once knew it. The honorable Elijah Muhammad, with the help from Allah, helped us to build a great and mighty nation, a great and mighty nation, providing us with all the necessities that a nation needs to thrive. He gave us an example. He helped us to build homes for ourselves, helped us to create businesses such as grocery stores and restaurants, clothing stores, all of those things. He showed us how to farm, how to go to the land and pull from the land those things that we would need: fruits, vegetables, all different types of crops. He taught us how to network and build relationships with other nations because we would have to have relationships with other nations in order to network as other nations network with one another, exchanging goods and services. So we as a nation, we would need that too. And the most honorable Elijah Muhammad did that. He networked with other governments as it related to exchange of goods and services. He showed us how to build up our economics by producing banks. He did this because if he didn't, we would still be beggars of the white man. So he was showing us how to become independent because we would have to take care of ourselves instead of seeking our enemy to take care of us. He helped us to establish schools so that we can teach our own. So as you see by some of these things that I'm naming, that they all relate to the benefit of helping our nation, we as black people here in America, go for self, do for self, to depend on no one but Allah. That's what all of his works says to me. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad wasn't just the typical businessman. I don't see where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad went for any schooling to learn how to do these businesses. He didn't go to any universities or colleges to be educated on these things. The one tool that I'm aware that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad used was the talent and the skill amongst us, his people. And he was able to collectively bring us together and to pool our resources, to pool our expertise and our talents. You know, we're not just a bunch of dumb Negroes. Many of us have skill sets, talents that we have been using to help build up this white man's nation. Honorable Elijah Muhammad was able to take those same talents, skills, trades, and to help us use those things to benefit ourselves. Sometimes he will go outside of our nation and hire others. If we lacked in that certain skill set, or if we didn't have that amongst us, he will go outside to seek it and hire it. but it was still for the benefit of our nation. So I say all of this to show how the Nation of Islam was thriving under the leadership of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. We had temples spread it out across the nation. It started with the temples. This is the basis. The temple was the basis to where all of this development began, because the temple helped develop the mind, helped create the unity for us to go forth and work together and start to do for self. That's the training, the education. Just as if someone goes off to school and study in a certain field of study and get the training and the education that they need to come out of the school and go forth and start working or building in that trade or in that study that they learned in school. So the temples of Islam was that for us, whereas we went to learn all about ourselves, to learn that we were a great and mighty people and was able to accomplish whatever we will by the help and guidance of Allah. We had to have that first. We had to know what we were capable of, and we had to establish a relationship of trust with one another, love for one another, respect for one another, and we had to have leadership. I'm saying all of this as a pretext to my discussion about unifying the Nation of Islam. We have to understand the history of it, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us. The history that I'm speaking of today is not history about 76 trillion years ago or 72 trillion or even 6,000 years ago. The history that I'm referring to date back beginning in the 1930s when Master Farah Muhammad came and raised up one from amongst us who was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that was the beginning of all that I just mentioned. There was a lot that preceded all of these great works of building a nation. There was a lot of sacrifice that was made, a lot of commitment, a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of coming and then falling away. There was time where the nation was beginning to grow and then it declined. We need to understand these things because it will help us today to keep us from repeating history. So, the unification of the Nation of Islam, how easy is that? Well, this is a starting point because we're going to need help. We can't do this just individually. We have to come together. Who better to come together than those of us who say that we believe in Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad and his messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. It is many of us who say that and who believe that. But we are divided. We refuse to work together. Why? Why why don't we do that which we know? Why won't we do that which we know will lead us to success? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us the blueprint to success. Unity is the key to success. I don't think there's a follower of Allah and His Messenger who have not uttered those same words. Unity is the key to our success. But we have to understand the degree of unity that's been referred to. There's degrees in everything. Degrees start from a flat plane, a dead level, to where it begins to rise 1 degree, 2 degrees, like a cipher, circle. A cipher is 360 degrees, but it begins at a point that is identified as zero. So, what degree of understanding do we have as it relates to unity being the key to our success? You know, there's different levels to unity. As we are three-dimensional human beings, meaning that we exist of three parts, in which Christianity tries to divide as three independent parts, but the messenger taught us that it all coexists, that the human being, that man, is made up of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, that they coexist together. They do not exist independently of one another. Exist meaning to be alive, because the physical, once it dies, then it no longer possesses the mental or the spiritual. That dies along with the physical, right? It doesn't separate and go to its own different parts. It all lives together, it all dies together. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that there's no life after death. Not a mental life, not a spiritual life, not a physical life, no life after death. So understanding unity as it relates to our success, being successful. There's degrees to success. If we use the lowest level of understanding for unity, we're going to get the lowest level of success. If we look at unity at its highest level, then we will receive a higher level of success. Excuse me. So, what level of success do we want as a people, as a nation? And I think I can say this on behalf of the entire nation of Islam is that we want unity in the way of freedom, justice, and equality. We want unity in the sense of independence, a land and a nation of our own, where we govern our own affairs, where we are free of oppression, dependency of another nation, whereas we can thrive and be of our fullest potential. Understanding where we have come from as it relates to being slaves here in America to where we are today, free slaves. And as long as we are free slaves, still in the land of bondage, our potential is limited because we do not own anything. And when you don't own anything, you're limited to what you can do for yourself and for your nation. So again, we're talking about the unification of the Nation of Islam. And we're starting at the point of attempting to unite with those of like mind, those who we call brothers and sisters, those who have submitted themselves to Allah and His message, those of us who have reclaimed our own, because we need the manpower to do this mighty, mighty task, unifying the Nation of Islam. So once we unite with those who we unite with, excuse me, whether it's many or few, and based on my experience in this work of unity, I'm going to assume that it will be few who will unite under under this position of unifying our nation. And the reason I say it will be few is because some of us not allow our indifferences to come together and work with others. I would say to those who choose to not come together because of our indifferences, we will not continue to grow. We will be stagnant. And a brother once said to me, if we're not growing, then you're dying. So, for the sake of our nation, for the sake of our families and our children, I say to all of us, let's give it one or two or three mighty try. Some of us have made attempts in the unification of our nation. I have been part of those discussions to where that attempt or that effort failed to some degree. And I say to some degree because even though at that particular time and that particular group didn't come together and work together and unite, it did make way for the second attempt and the third attempt. Some of us have been in many circles as it relates to these discussions of unity. And I commend those who were willing to continue to try and try. That says a lot about you because you understand that unity is a must. We must unite. And although you had some bad experiences or bad encounters with these attempts, some have become enemies along the way. Speak ill of one another who have been in these conversations about unity. Because a lot of times you never got off the first base. You never got beyond the table, the table talks, those discussions. You never went forth in your idea of unity, working together. You know, some of us have relationships with one another. This temple here has a relationship with this temple there. But what are you producing? You have to be producing something. I know that we are going after our people, teaching Islam as taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. We're having these lectures, temple meetings, and so forth. But there is none around the country that is growing. It's the same members, day in and day out, that's coming to these meetings. They're not bringing anybody new. And most of the people in the temple are older, older generation, unless they're bringing their children. But the youth is not coming. Who is the future? The world sees this. We see this. Just a handful of people, family members, or those who was there when your minister was there. A lot of our elders who brought us, who are our ministers in the nation, have passed on, and we're continuing the works. We're 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 holding on by a thread. Imagine what the temple's going to look like after this generation passes on of ministers and captains and the the laborers of the temple. If we're not bringing anybody in, we're hoping that our children will take on. But a lot of us, our children are not even in the temple. There's no inspiration for them to be there. They don't even see anybody their own age. All they see is a bunch of people that look like their fathers and their mothers, but their peers is not there. They don't want to get out there and sell the Muhammad Speaks newspaper because they're embarrassed. They're ashamed to be out there. They don't understand, this is a different generation. So we want to start there with uniting with as many of us who understand this, who know the need for it, because some of us have become complacent and content with what we have and what we're doing. Some of us have temples and we have our core members, the laborers, and we're just trying to grow that temple, get a better building or trying to get some more people to come in and register with us. But that's the extent of it. Are you do we think that we're gonna take that temple that we're at and do like the messenger did and started putting up temples all across the country, starting with our temple? We're going to grow our temple and then we're going to go to this place and then we're going to establish another temple. And do you think that that's what you're going to be able to do? The messenger was able to do it because Allah was with him. But Allah has given us the blueprint. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad has given us the blueprint. He said to unite. You're not going to be able to do it on your own. We must unite. So we'll start there with uniting with those who want to unite with us. I want to be clear about this unification. This unification is about us coming together as one. It is not about you coming on with us or us coming on with you. It's about us coming together, bringing what you have. We bringing what we have. And when I say what you have and what we have, because in our own private sector or our own area or our own temple, we have been doing something as it relates to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has instructed us to do. You have some type of structure or organization or perspective in which you're operating and how you would like to see the direction of the nation and all that you may have put in place. Bring it. We're not telling you to throw anything to the side. It's like a marriage. When a man and a woman come together, they're going to bring what each other has to the table. She may have her own place. She may have her own way of how she operates her household, the things that she likes to do, how she worship, how she prays. You may have your own, and there will be some things that will be similar, alike, because that's what attracted you to that point to where you want to come together as one. There has to be some similarities there, because if you're completely opposite, then there's going to be problems from the beginning. Although the attractedness may be there, because we know that opposites attract. But when those two opposites that attract come together, then they have to make adjustments in order to stay together. It may come together, but it has to stay together. The properties of those two things that's opposite have to realign in order to connect to where it becomes a solid match or to become one. Because if it just comes together by attraction, what's going to hold that attraction? So when we come together, we have to first, like the man and woman coming together, we have to first establish a relationship. Before we can even begin to work out our differences, we have to establish a relationship that gives us an emotional connection. We have to care for one another. We have to have respect for one another. We have to love one another. Why is this necessary? Because it is those properties that I'm mentioning. Those things are the property that has to realign and come together to hold those two physical parties together. Because if we don't have that connection of love, respect, then we can easily fall apart when those indifferences manifest. And those indifferences may come in a way of disagreement, argument, or even a fight. If we don't have those connections, once those disagreement comes, we will be more likely, more easily to walk away from one another because there's no emotional connection there. I don't need her. I don't need him. Right? When you think about marriages that have lasted 30, 40, 50 plus years, think about all the indifferences, the challenges. It doesn't necessarily have to come with indifferences. It can come with just challenges of being apart for a time period, or challenges of outside people coming in with things that may cause a disruption in your relationship. Those relationships that have lasted 30, 40, 50 plus years had to overcome those challenges, those indifferences. How were they able to do it? It's because it was more beneficial for them to stay together than to separate and be apart. They had to lay down their pride, even though they may feel like they may have been wrong. They had to set aside their pride, even if they were proven to be right in the situation. Even when your golden rule was broken. The one thing that you said, I would not tolerate. I've heard some women say, I don't care what you do, but if you put your hands on me, we're done. And that situation occurred, but they still got past that. And it may have took some work to get past that, but they eventually got past that to where there was some reestablishment of those golden rules. Because there's some things that we, followers of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, that we say that we will not tolerate or stand. For instance, we say that if you try to elevate yourself to the level of Allah and His messenger, because you know our golden rule, there's no big I's or little U's. But if we find you interpreting yourself or those who are with you who is interpreting you as being a big I, we will reject that. And in that rejection, we will not come together seeking unity with you because there's a violation there. A lot of us are in violation to some degree or another. Whereas you may look at this person for their violation because because you don't see, because when you look at their violation, it stands out like a sore thumb. Whereas our violation may be minor or lesser than that violation that you are pointing out of the other person. But someone may be looking at you and looking at your violation because their violation may be to a lesser degree, to some sort. Remember, everything comes in degrees. But you don't want to be rejected or denied because your violation is at a greater degree than that person who's looking at you, saying, I can't be with you because of this, that, and the third. It may not be that you're elevating yourself to a big I or putting yourself in a position that you was not given by Allah. It may be something else. So we all stand the right to a fair trial before persecution, freedom, justice, and equality. We must be just with one another. As a father who looks on his child growing up His child makes some mistakes. You can't be so strict in your disciplinary action towards that child when they do something wrong, because you know that you yourself coming up as a child made some mistakes, broke some rules. So, based on your experience, you tend to be a little more merciful in your judgment of your child. And then when you get to your grandchildren, your child's child, your grandchildren, you are even more merciful, because not only did you go through it yourself, not only did you deal with it in the raising of your own child, but now you're dealing with your your children's children. And you tend to be much, much more merciful. Whereas your child may be ready to discipline his child to a certain degree, but you may come in and intervene and say, hey, son, you remember when you did such and such? You was the same way. You're teaching your child to be a little more merciful based on their experience going through something similar. So you try to get your son to be a little more merciful to his son than you were with him. We have to show mercy and forgiveness, even when it may not be deserved. That's the attribute of showing grace. Grace. Allah gives us grace to where he bestows blessings upon us that we are not even deserving of. He is the beneficent, the most merciful. He shows us grace and mercy. If we are to be like Allah or to be Allah, we must show forth mercy and grace and forgiveness, even when we don't deserve it, of one another. I thank Allah who came in the person of Master Farah Muhammad, and I thank his messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm thankful to my minister, Minister Bassir Muhammad, because he led me to Allah and his messenger. We all have that personal experience that led us to where we are. And we have to honor and respect the path in which we came, whether it was through this brother or this sister. We have to respect that and honor that. But because we're showing respect and honor, that doesn't mean that you're elevating them beyond above others. That's not the same. As much respect and honor that I have for my minister, I would not do something in the sense of how I see others do, put him in the salutation along with Allah and the messenger. The reason why I wouldn't do that is because, for one, that wasn't the way that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad allowed us to do the salutation. During the time of the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, no one, no minister in the Nation of Islam open up with the salutation and put anybody's name in there along with Allah the Messenger. This would have been addressed during that time, I'm sure. But we do it today, some of us. Don't you see that that creates division? What's wrong with closing out your salutation after you acknowledge Allah and His Messenger? And when you close it, then you can give honor and thanks to the one who brought you in the temple or the one that led you to Allah and His Messenger. I don't see nothing wrong with that. But when you add yourself or add someone to that salutation, then you're putting them into that divine order of Allah and His Messenger, and then here you are, and then here we are. No, sir, I don't think that's the right way. We can express honor for those who were great men and women and instrumental to the development of the nation. We can show honor and give praise to them without uplifting them in a place that separates them from the rest of them. You can be great amongst the rest of us, but you want to be great with Allah and His Messenger alone, elevating yourself above the rest of us. That's where the big I and the little U's come in. I have great honor and respect for my minister, Minister Bassett Muhammad. I, I would not put him in that divine order along with Allah and His Messenger without putting us all there. So I know it's taking me some time, but I feel that it's necessary that these things be made known and said to get to the point of the matter, the unification of the Nation of Islam. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to have to work out. And that's where it gets back to having respect and love for one another, to be able to have those tough conversations. So, in the meantime, we can be working as we're building that relationship. We can be working while we're building that relationship with one another. What does that work look like? Where do we start once we come together? Well, in my humble opinion, and I'm open to anybody else's opinion, I'm not a closed minded brother. I don't think I know it all. I think I know enough to make sense, but I don't think I know it all. I don't think I'm the best knower, not by a long shot. I pray that in our unification that there is others who come who are much more knowledgeable, much more has much more understanding and wisdom that I can get behind or stand beside. I don't want to be the one that everybody's looking to for answer. I want us to be that collectively. But I don't know my brother know. But I don't understand my brother understand. What I don't have a skill in, my brother has a skill in. That's where the strength of unity comes from. Not by one man knowing it all and everybody else seeking to follow behind him. That belongs to Allah. And I'm far from that, brothers and sisters. But I'm willing and willing to do my part. I want to be that brother you can depend on. Yes, sir. That's how I feel I can be valuable to our nation, is to be able to add what it is that I have to contribute and to continue to develop myself, to qualify myself, I should say, to develop and qualify myself for where there's a need for our nation. Um, I want to be more than just what I come to the table with. I want to add value, as we all should be. I don't want to be dead weight, putting the burden on my nation. I want to add value. I want to lighten the load. So, what's the work that we should start off doing? In my humble opinion, I think that we should start working on structuring our nation, structuring our nation, creating a system in which we operate. I hear brothers who talk about we should open a business, open a school. These things are all good. But I don't think that should be the first step. I think that creating this system and this structure should be the first step. System of operation, how we're going to operate and function together as one. A structure that consists of protocol and procedures and laws that govern our nation. The restricted laws of Islam, that helps govern our nation. Procedures and protocol. Look at other nations as an example. They had to put all this down on paper. I think this is where we start. And once we create that system, which will, of course, develop over time, as every nation had to make adjustment within this governing body to modify, change, as the nation grew and evolved, we would have to do the same over the course of time. But the laws of Islam will always apply. We're just talking about how we operate within those laws, how we govern ourselves. The protocols and procedures can change based on the time and condition that we're living in. It may be things that we do today that may not have been done during the time that the messenger was amongst us because there was no need for it then. But there are many things that we can carry on that tradition of practice for the sake of its purpose. So we must come together. This is what we can be doing. Come together, taking that which the messenger had already given us. We're not reinventing the wheel, as they say. There may be some modifications to the wheel because when the wheel was first invented, there was no pavements. They was riding on dirt roads, raw land. So that wheel that was made then wouldn't be sufficient today. The cars were designed differently. You take those wheels and put it on today's cars, it ain't gonna make it. So the wheel had to be modified along with the car, along with the environment, as the environment changed, as the terrain changed. So there may be some modifications in the protocol and the procedures in which we operate within the laws of Islam, still upholding those universal laws. So we need those great minds that's going to come from that unified effort. And then once we get that system established in a way that we can start building on it, that system of operation and structure is going to be the foundation on which we start building on, right? The true foundation is the wisdom of Allah. That's not material though. That's that's a possession. Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is a possession in our mind that helps us go forth to bring out the physical. These teachings that we have. It's written down on paper, but we are to put it into our mental. We are to learn it, digest it, process it, that helps evolve and elevate our mental in order to do this task. So when I say the structure and the system is the foundation, it's a process on which we build upon. Then we can start raising up the temples, right? Why? Because we need to Go after our people. Continue to go after our people. Because remember, in our unification, in our early stages of uniting, we're not going to be this great number of people. Like we seen how the nation was during the time of the messenger, uh, later days. Remember, in the messenger early days, it was just a few. It was just started off with one temple. Started off with children being schooled in the homes. No Muhammad's University of Islam. No temples. No temple number one, two, three. They was meeting in homes until the first temple was established. We're pretty much at that. We're digging in the ruins. It's like if a town or a city had a natural disaster, a tornado or a fire came through, and after it passed, the people come back to the community and start digging through the ruins. And this was a bad disaster that happened to the Nation of Islam. We were almost to a point of non-existence. Yes, I know that there were some who didn't follow the crowd and who didn't destroy what Allah and the most honorable Elijah Muhammad built. There were some who continued to believe and carry on the teachings, but it was so so few and far in between. It wasn't like those who didn't follow the crowd. It wasn't that if they said, "Well, let us come together separately and continue to work." They didn't do that. They stayed in their own private areas and believed, within their families and their homes. Some of them may have been still meeting here and there, but it wasn't significant enough to to really do anything in the way of establishing our nation. They were just the Nation of Islam, as it was taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, was on life support. And these few brothers and sisters who didn't follow the crowd and who continued to stand their posts and continue the teachings, these were the ones who we would credit with being the life support. When a person is on life support, they are just in like a dead state. Their heart is beating by the help of a machine. They have brain activity going on, but not in a way where they can get up and function and do anything. They're like in a dead state. They're on life support to help them to stay alive. Without that support, it would that person would die. So that was the resemblance of the Nation of Islam. So we thank those believers who were steadfast, because when a person is on life support, there's still a chance. There's still a chance that they can be recovered. And this is why we honor these men so much. but we can't elevate them where Allah has not placed them. But we can honor them as I'm doing right now. I'm honoring them. I'm thanking them. I'm acknowledging them for what they sacrificed, because it had to be a sacrifice. For their contribution. Without their help, there may not have been the opportunity to revive the Nation of Islam. So it was Allah's will. You know, everything, nothing, let me say it this way, nothing happens on this earth or anywhere else, be it the will of Allah. If we can look at the devil and his existence and contribute that to Allah's will, the devil being the will of Allah, why can't we contribute all things being the will of Allah? Forgive me, brothers and sisters, if I stray off my point, if I get off the subject, but I prayed to Allah and asked Him to guide my words. So we're talking about the unification of a nation. We talked first about establishing a relationship, a brotherhood, a sisterhood with respect and love for one another. We talked about how we're going to have to deal with some of our indifferences, but we must have a relationship first in order to do that. Or while we're doing that, no, first. And we have to come together and start establishing a system of operation in which we can work together. Then building on that, establishing temples, purchasing businesses. Because as we establish temples to help reach our people and bring them in, the messenger said the coin is in the fish's mouth. So we're going to have to be building up our treasury and investing into those things that the messenger invested into the land so that we can start producing our wants and our needs. This is where we begin to, you know, that's when we have been revived, when we start producing. You know something has been revived if it start producing. You're not on life support anymore because you're producing. And once we start producing, see the reason why the system and the structure, all that is necessary before we start producing, because if we don't have that in place, then what we produce will not operate under a system of government. Everything that America produces falls under a system of government. The government has a system for it, just like the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. They have that part. Then you have uh, uh, um, uh, the USDA, United States um, Department of Agriculture. Everything that America produces, there is some system involved to help regulate it. If not, then it would be privately owned. So if we have a brother or sister in the Nation of Islam that establishes a business and we don't have a system set up, then that business is privately owned. It doesn't belong to the Nation of Islam. It belongs to that citizen of the Nation of Islam alone. The body of the Nation of Islam or the leadership of the Nation of Islam has no uh, say about that business. That citizen of the Nation of Islam, that believer, can have a storefront, a grocery store. And they can sell pig feet and pig tails in that store. And what could the Nation of Islam have to say about it if we don't have a system and a structure set up? And that store will be contributed to the Nation of Islam because the owner of that store is a citizen of the Nation of Islam. Do you think that a Muslim, a professed Muslim in the East, that's in a Islamic government, can open up a store and sell pig feet and pig tails? No, they cannot. That will be a violation of a law that was set up by a structure or a system. We have to govern our nation. So that's why it's necessary to establish that first, brothers and sisters. We're not a nation of businessmen and businesswomen, although those things consist in our nation. So we start establishing these things. Temples to go after our people, to teach Islam, to continue to teach our own, continue to try to resurrect as many of our people as we can, to continue to grow this nation, continue to seek Allah for his wisdom and guidance, and also for his salvation. We're still looking to be saved. We're still looking to be saved. Can we be our own self saviors? I don't think so. I think that, well, I ain't going to tell you what I think because you won't accept it. But I know that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us about what Master Farad Muhammad has done in preparation and what he can do in the way of saving us. He referred to Master Farad Muhammad as the Savior. And him coming to save us doesn't end with him raising up the messenger. and teaching us to go for self. The messengers taught us that we need to separate from this nation, not necessarily physically, but mentally and physically. We need to separate. Why? So that Allah can carry out judgment, right? So I still depend on Allah, who came in the person of Master Farah Muhammad, to save us. I don't think we saved, and I don't think we can save ourselves. I don't think that this devil, in the position that he's in today, would let us get that far, unless it be the will of Allah, who came in the person of Master Farah Muhammad. And that would in turn make him our savior, not us being self-saved. So, so this is our aim and our purpose. And there's probably more that will come to mind, but this is the starting point where we start, building the temples and the schools, all that the messenger did, going to the farmlands and growing our own foods and working on our economic program. And that is us producing for self and being recognized and respected by the other nations to where they will want to help us. We ain't too proud to receive help. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad wasn't too proud to receive help. And we can still turn to this nation to let them know our wants and our needs and see if they are willing to do something in the way of our independence that would extend them grace and mercy from Allah. You never know. It could be the right timing. I think now is a good time. So I think America want to let us go anyway. And they may be so desperate that they may give us a good send off. So this is what we're seeking. Myself and the brothers who I am in association with, we're seeking the unification of our nation. I'm not so much interested in titles. The title that was given to me was the Nation of Islam. A lot of us have taken on these other titles to um, differentiate ourselves from others who may not be in accordance to what we believe or what we teach. And this is the reason why so many of us have taken on these different titles. You know, Amish Temples United, New Nation of Islam, all types of different titles. But once we unite, We won't need to different. I can't even say the word. Different to make our identity different from one another if we're united. Yeah. So I think I will stop there. I think that's a good enough start. And I'm definitely willing to receive any ideas that will make this idea even better. I am your brother in Islam, and I have great love and respect for my entire nation. I would be the Donald Trump of the Nation of Islam. I would fly flag high. And I would tell my nation to fight, fight, fight. That's why, even although I know that this man is the devil, I respect him because he doesn't hide his his pride and his love for his people and his nation. That's what he's supposed to do. Everything that he is doing is in the best interest of his people and his nation. You gotta respect that. Because wouldn't you want the same for your nation? So I thank Allah. I thank his messenger. I thank all the believers who were able to be steadfast. Because if you didn't offer anything, you at least gave us inspiration. Those who came behind you, those who come with you, you have given inspiration. You have been part of the life support of this nation. Now it's time to get our nation off of life support and back producing once again. So I thank Allah who came in the person of Master Farah Muhammad, and may Allah bless this mighty and great nation of Islam. Assalamu alaikum.
If you believe what you are taught today on Islam is true, and you would like to learn more or you are ready to accept and reclaim your own, contact the Lost Found Nation of Islam Muhammad's Temple United at 623-312-4352. Again, that's 623-312-4352. We thank you for joining us today and we ask that you return next Sunday and invite your family and friends. We ask your support so that we may continue to get the truth out to our people.
The Lost and Found Nation of Islam, Muhammad's Temple United, is seeking to unite with all of the believers in temples across the country. If you are a member or a part of a temple, or if you have a temple, contact us and let us unite one nation under one way of life, Islam as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The time is now, black man and woman. Your nation awaits you. Assalamu alaikum.